You're listening to the Belmar Bites podcast, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. Welcome back to the Belmar Bites podcast. Tom, good to see you. How's your day going?
Happy to be here. Yeah, it's going well. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, listen, we're covering. We're not covering. We're in the middle of our summer academy series that is educational based, giving folks that are using Salesforce just some, I guess, fundamentals. And so we're today going to be talking about automations, which is a pretty broad term, but we're going to give some specific examples of what can be done in Salesforce as it pertains to automation. So we have up to this point covered. We've had 3 or 4 other topics we've covered. So if you want to check those out, you can check those out on our either our website or go to Spotify or Apple, and you can search for the Belmar Bites podcast, and you can go back and take a look at those. But with that, Tom, automations. Why don't you just kind of set the stage in terms of like what are automations, what are they intended to do, and then we can, as we sort of learn a little bit more about that, get into some specifics.
For sure. Yeah, I guess in the previous episodes, we talked about data hygiene and reporting, and those are really a baseline couple of things that you could do with your CRM org that just gets you started. Now, the real magic of the CRMs and especially Salesforce is the words automation and the functionality of automation. That's where it really comes alive. So, in terms of what they offer to your organization is really taking a lot of that administrative work out of your hands and putting that more into the system's hands. So it takes, some stuff that may take hours for you to administer by hand. It really cuts that down to just immediate actions. So, for example, if you need specific, emails sent out after a certain, inbound revenue has been closed, you can code that into the system and just configure it really to what you want. It's really endless, and Salesforce's capabilities, whether it be flows or OmniScript, are pretty vast in terms of what they can offer.
Yeah, pretty capable. Cool. Well, I think you've teed it up well. I think just this concept of automations. I think we're probably all used to these types of things. I mean, I sort of one that jumps to immediately to mind, is the old school, email automation. Out of office. Like when you're out of office, say you're on vacation or you're traveling, you set up an out of office, and then that is notifying or communicating on behalf of you to whoever has sent you an email while you have your out of office running. That's just a form of automation. So we can do lots of automations in Salesforce. There's many different ways to do that. The example that we're going to dive into, or I guess examples we're going to dive into today, lean in the direction of a fundraising organization. So many of our clients are nonprofits, and they are, in many cases, collecting donations. And some of our clients collect a lot of donations in terms of like actual quantity of donations. And it's, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a fundraiser. It's just impossible to deal with every single donor that makes a donation on any given day. Obviously, fundraisers want to keep in touch and communicate back to their donors, but it's impossible to send a personalized message to every single donor that makes a donation on any given day. So this is a great example of where Salesforce can do some of the work on your behalf, or can triage some of the work on your behalf, and enable you to either follow up at a later time personally, and or just prioritize, based on the amount of bandwidth you have, which donors you're going to be reaching out to directly. So, Tom, have I teed that up well? Is that a sort of a fair assessment of uh, how automations can help a fundraiser?
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%.
Cool. Um, well, before we maybe jump into Salesforce and you show us sort of how this works, what are some other, I guess, sort of parameters that we can set? Because Salesforce is incredibly flexible, and um, outside of just sort of this concept of an automated message, give us some other examples of what you're seeing with our customers in terms of where they're using automation today.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's very complex frameworks that you can go down when it comes to automation. So Salesforce's, out of the box flow capabilities have many decision elements that you can choose. If then type of logic. For example, if someone is, for example, applying for a grant, if you have a grant application form that is kind of a catch-all form, it can pick up on the values that they're inputting there. So if this grant application exceeds over $10,000 or something like that, it can route them to a specific grant and show them and bringing up specific, grant parameters for further information that they need to enter. Things like that, and it can get complex very quick. We have had automation logic that it spans multiple pages in terms of the process flow that you can build into the system. So, without getting too into the weeds there, it can offer quite a bit to your organization.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say, like, if we build on some of the other topics that we've covered, data hygiene, reporting, these are all foundational aspects of using Salesforce. And then, building on top of that is automation. So how, if ask yourself the question, like, what could you offload to Salesforce to give
Mhm.
yourself more time to do more of X? Um, and automations really are there to help you accomplish that. So, um, Tom, I know you've got a couple of examples that you wanted to jump into. So why don't we sort of move in that direction now? Do you want to tee up kind of what we're going to see?
Sure. Yeah. There's in terms of the fundraising use case, there's a couple of different areas that we see our customers really wanting to target first. One thing before we kind of start automations is how are you stewarding your contacts or your constituents? And you know, a lot of some nonprofits may be wary about automations because not everyone uh, wants to be sent an automated email, for example. But when you start introducing a kind of human first automation and you get into a tiered stewardship approach, some donors can get that immediate email notifications based off certain triggers, but some steward or some constituents who are in different tiers that you may categorize them, such as major donors, may require more human interaction, and you can use automation to enhance that experience as well. One example that we're going to show today is just a thank you gift acknowledgement for when gifts are arriving into Salesforce. But also, if a gift is over, for example, $5,000 in this use case, and they're categorized as a major donor, we can set that up to create a task assigned to the owner of that record to follow up with a call or a meeting, things like that. But yeah, we want to make sure that we're not taking the human touch out of your stewardship process or your kind of relationship building process, but we're using it to really make you more efficient and organized in your day to day work. There's so many different
Right.
possibilities as well. One of them that we could use probably is for your ongoing either monthly donors or your ongoing contracts, when they're up for renewal, you can set up a reminder, say, hey, in 2 weeks' time, this contract is up for renewal, or this recurring donor is set to lapse. So, you can schedule a follow up there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hear, and I've had lots of conversation over the years with our clients that have voiced their concern about like where's that line between you know this remaining personal, uh, and then tipping into automation. Do I potentially lose a relationship with a donor if they're perceiving, my communication in this example to be, sort of more machine driven than human driven, and so we're not here to uh, tell you how to do it. We're here to let you know that this can be done, and you need to find where that line is, and then set the parameters such that the system is helping you to you know we'll sum it up as accomplish more in the same amount of time. And the examples, Tom, you've used are an automated acknowledgement, a thank you, an email. It could also be, hey, we haven't heard from you, or you haven't heard from us in X amount of time. We want to communicate to you. So like this can be more than much more than just acknowledgement. And so so yeah, I want to, my challenge to any fundraisers that are listening to this is really to be thinking about where, like where we can all use more time in our lives, and whether we've typically got more to do than we've got the time to get it done. So finding that line that makes the most sense for you and for the organization, and ultimately for in this example, for your donors. So so with that, Tom, I know you've got a couple things you wanted to show in Salesforce, so let's jump into it.
let's do it. Okay, so let me outline some of these use cases that we got here. So right now we're looking at Jill Parker's record here, and they are a trusted donor. Sometimes they give major gifts, or sometimes they give one-off recurring gifts, or one-off gifts and recurring gifts depending on the year. A couple of problems that we see today is if your team and your fundraising operations team really only runs batch receipting, once a week. Sometimes the donor waits, 4 or 5 days to receive any notification from your organization that they've been, you know, their donation has been received and they've been acknowledged or they feel appreciated. One thing that we want to do is make sure that this is done immediately. So I'm just going to skip to a pre-populated, gift transaction record here. So we're just going to say, hey, let's say Jill Parker, stops by and drops off a $460 check, or it's given through online, whatever it may be. And we know that acknowledgement status can be tracked in Salesforce, but right now it's not being sent out. So we just set the parameters here that they're donating $460 is given by check, and I'm going to just run this here. So as you can see, that record was created here. Jill has given $460. A couple of things that we'll notice on this record here. On the right-hand side, on the activity timeline, which is where you track your tasks or you log meetings or calls or emails, we can see that an automated email already got sent out. And you can see that here. Thank you so much for your generous gift of $460 to Belmar Academy. Your support directly funds our student success initiatives. It's something like that. So, this is something that I just quickly built out of a Salesforce flow that evaluates that this is just a one-time gift and not a major gift in the system. It also updates the acknowledgement status to be sent there because they have been technically acknowledged via email. Now, there's many ways to do this as well. A lot of online giving tools also send out some sort of emails like this, but this is also very useful for when offline gifts are coming into your system. Now, the second use case I want to highlight is, if we go into Jill's, record, we understand that Jill, sometimes, based on her propensity to give, to become a major donor, they are likely to give larger gifts. So in our organization, we consider $5,000 or more a major gift. And let's say someone drops, a large gift onto your website. Um, we don't want them to receive the exact same standard email as someone who gives only $50 on your website. So within the same flow, I'm just going to go back and create another one. So let's say this one is $5,500. Everything else remains the same. We'll say that. And yeah, let's say that they gave this major gift. What it automatically does is assigns the donor record owner a task that, hey, a major gift has been processed. They need a personal call because major donors. We feel we want to acknowledge them in a slightly different way. And this can be different for different tiers of donors that you have. So if you have, a gold, silver, bronze tier, of donors, that can be set based on the thresholds that you decide on. So right now we can see that I have a major gift. Sorry, I have a task that is assigned to my own user because I'm the owner of Jill in the system. That a personal call is needed, and I can complete this as I do it. And this is set to be due tomorrow. So that's just an example of one thing that you can do. And I wanted to share that, you know, in the back end when you're configuring this flow, this is all from one flow, and it's basically based on decision element that decides whether the gift is over $5,000 or if it's not, and if it's a standard gift. And both of those paths will um, essentially execute different actions. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's a great example of, I guess, just the system triaging and responding in the way that your organization has uh, configured that workflow to happen. Um, so that's yeah, that's pretty powerful. And I know for most of our customers, if not all of our customers, have some form of flows set up. I think one of the things that we find often is when we initially implement Salesforce for an organization, they've got in their minds a certain way of like, this is the way we've done it in the past. This is the way that we think we're going to do this in the future. And then, they begin executing with Salesforce sort of in that format. But flows can be modified and changed and updated. And Tom, I think as you said earlier, like we've got examples where these flows can be very complex. And so, I guess I say that to say this that regardless of what your process looks like, Salesforce can. I can almost guarantee it can accommodate that, and it but also has the flexibility to adapt and change to your future process. So if the way you're doing things today needs to change in the future, or there's seasons of the year where things need to be different from the rest of the year, these flows can be modified and adapt to whatever your current business rules are. So I guess in terms of people want to learn more about flows and I guess in general automation. I guess I'll give a couple of options that they can explore. So one is Salesforce Trailhead. There's a ton of resources on the Salesforce website. So if you're not familiar with Trailhead, you can go to uh, just Google Salesforce Trailhead, and it's going to take you into their learning management system. And in there, you can learn all about uh, the various forms of automation. I will say, if you are not a Salesforce administrator, some of this can appear to be a little overwhelming, and so if you do have an internal Salesforce admin who can help you and support you, well, then let them know what you're wanting to do, and they can certainly help configure the system appropriately. If you need help in the scenario where you don't have a Salesforce admin, you want to just explore some of these ideas. We're available to for you to bounce ideas off of us. There's no cost to do that. Just reach out through our website at belmarcloud.com and fill out a form or click a button that prompts you to connect with us. And myself, Tom, somebody else on our team can have a conversation and just help point you in the right direction. And in cases where you want to outsource that and have a firm like ourselves help you, well, we'd be happy to walk through that with you. Um, I guess outside of that, Tom, I mean, I think I probably covered most of the places people can go and sort of get help with this. But I guess what are just some things that you would recommend just if people want to play around with this and just become more familiar? What sort of what's the best way for them to get started?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that Scott highlighted a few really good options there. You could always just sign up for a trial org. With Salesforce, you can get one for free and try it out for, I believe it's 30 days or something like that, and just play around. I think the first step is, if you want to play with automation or start thinking about automation and how it can help your processes, just thinking about, your current day-to-day workflow and think about where you want your manual interaction to be, that human touch to be, and where you can find in your process, certain efficiencies to be had. Where can we eliminate some manual processes there, and figure out, how you might be able to tackle that with your current system. Um, we want to make sure that, when we talk about automation and AI and things like that, it's not necessarily replacing the human work of relationship building and tasks. It's more so unlocking and enhancing it, and just making sure that you can focus on that human interaction piece with even more capacity than you are today. So
Yeah,
yeah,
awesome. Okay. Well, Tom, I guess just to quickly recap, automations in Salesforce. There's many different ways to automate tasks, automate process, automate um, um, business workflow within Salesforce. So if you want to learn more, uh, go online, Google Salesforce automation, and you're going to find just a litany of articles and trailhead content on that. If you would like a little bit more of a sort of personalized guide, reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation and either point you in the right direction or we can actually help support you on that. You referenced, Tom, that you referenced AI, which is a great segue into the next topic that we are going to cover in the next episode of Belmar Bites, which actually is going to be the final piece of content that we're dropping through our podcast. But we're going to do that one in a future episode coming up next week. And so, if you want to learn more about, I guess you've got automation as a foundational layer, and then on top of that, we've got additional capability with AI. Tune into the episode that follows this one, and you'll learn more about that. With that, Tom, appreciate you doing this today. Thanks for walking us through that flow and just showing how that just that basic automation can save a bunch of time and really just create a better donor experience. And for everybody who's tuned in, thanks for listening. And we hope to catch you on the next one. And you can learn more about us at belmarcloud.com. Have an awesome day, and thanks for listening.
awesome. Thanks, everyone.
This has been another episode of Belmar Bites, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or on our website at belmarcloud.com.